I am going to making an acknowledgement. It is 12:41 a.m. on June 5th, 2021. I published a notice on my LinkedIn account today with an understanding that this evening there is supposed to be an update to the Congressional Research Service database. Now, in the past, when these things happen, what I've noticed is that when they shut the database down, it is as if some sort of transaction takes place during the time frame. I have at least 5 times in the last 3 years, 3 times since the onset of COVID-19, been aware of databases of that are online repositories of government documents shutting down so that there could be some sort of maintenance. And that's in addition to other databases. But what I'm concerned happens is that when they do that, they take down the database, and when it reboots, they have documents that are altered from the original format of the documents and the original content of the documents. Prior to that, I have a video from either January or February 2021 where I document real time finding reports connected to the Office of Comptroller of Currency where there is actually altered information available online. And then I also have another one where I talk about how there is the database is taken offline, and while the database is taken offline, there is all of this intense activity going on that is highly suspect and illegal and dangerous by virtue of the fact that the database has been taken offline. So when they do these regular maintenances or these maintenances of the databases, there's usually a very substantial concurrent process ongoing, and oftentimes it presents a peril. I'm concerned such a thing is happening now. If in fact anybody has put a seizure on any of the assets connected to former presidential campaign candidates, including members of the Democratic Party, I've already provided a notice where I have discussed how I believe that both the Democratic and Republican parties need to be identified as a terrorist organization. However, this is separate and apart. If somebody is visiting a race-based hate crime against a former presidential candidate in order to use assets connected to that former presidential candidate in some sort of financing, including in connection with any of the negotiations around infrastructure or anything connected to alleged COVID relief. Understand that I understand this to be a very significant national security threat, and it is being done in a racialized manner that fits a pattern, including one that I think legally constitutes hate crimes, and is especially concerning insofar as prior to the database going down, the Congressional Research Service had a notice that is slightly different than notices it usually has, dated for March 5th of 2021, that says resurgence of chemical weapons use, issues for Congress. Just yesterday, there was an article that discussed how there were concerns that there was increased use of chemical weapons in Syria. I did not see the article, I did not read the article. I saw the headline and I saw that it was published for yesterday, which is very suspect in consideration of the fact that I just found this. It would be 3 months since this was published. But if in fact somebody's using these database being taken down for some sort of maintenance, concurrent to what would be the 3 month anniversary of this specific report from the Congressional Research Service, I'm concerned that somebody is using that process to create some sort of transaction that is based on not only race based hate crimes against a former presidential candidate in the United States, but also a head of state in another country. And the characterization is specifically racialized, and I'm concerned is connected to this particular chemical weapons notice. Now, you guys, somebody seems to think it's okay to do this. Somebody seems to think it's okay to just do things like create cryptos connected to reports on chemical weapons and not follow up on it, including going on, well, literally, not so ironically, right? I have a benchmark or a deadline regarding an anniversary for attempting to report a concern about chemical weapons use in another country coming up on June 6th, somebody decided that they wanted to make this report available on this date, the 3 month anniversary today, and correlate it with the Congressional Research Service database being offline. That is unacceptable. You need to stop this. This has been going on for way too long. What I just understand happened is if an individual who is a former candidate for political office agreed to make their assets, their personal assets, available so that they could be used in connection with attempting to address matters related to the situation at hand, including in connection with any sort of stock being drawn on or used for a relief effort, that's one thing. But I understand that thus far, that's not what's been happening. And my understanding is somebody really wanted it to be characterized as if that person's assets were seized. And while there may not have been the overt racialized implications at the onset, by the time the transaction finished, they had to make sure that it was characterized as such and then indicate that they were going to junk it. This just happened within the last hour. I'm letting you know that now. I'm going to follow up on it. This is a very serious matter. You've spent way too much time isolating me and doing whatever the fuck else you thought, and I'm saying it that way. You had your reasons for doing this as long as you did. It hasn't served any practical utility. If you were trying to identify me as a culprit, you haven't proven anything. But what I just witnessed, while on one hand it could have been very beneficial, in the context of this and the way that you allowed it to terminate, I'm very, very concerned that, again, somebody who believes that they have the cover of sovereign or diplomatic immunity feels like they're entitled to use this to finance an act of terrorism that I understand they intend to effectuate within the next 10 days. It's unacceptable. Are you going to respond yet? Are you going to do something? You know now. I'm not going to press the point. If you're going to let them use this to finance an act of terrorism or an even more grand attack, then you've already been warned.